As everyone knows, you need to constantly develop and move forward. I also decided to master a new aspect of car repair, namely electronics and software. If in the mechanical part I can already call myself a mid-level specialist, then in electronics I'm probably still a beginner. So for these purposes I bought myself a Launch 129 high definition all system scanner. I bought it on AliExpress. Of course I had to wait a week for it to be delivered, so I didn't overpay the local middleman. So the scanner comes in this original packaging. This packaging was sealed inside another box. So let's open it up and take a look. The package includes the scanner, which is small and comes in a shockproof case. Here we can see there are mechanical navigation buttons. We also have a touchscreen, so you can control it directly on the screen. Here is the power button and a Type-C port for charging, which means you can use a regular phone charger to charge it. And this is the connector for connecting to the car. The package includes this cable, which we use to connect to the car. And there are also several adapters included. So regarding the scanner, I've already turned it on, it's already activated. I've also already downloaded all the software, all the programs for all the brands. And I'll say right away that the price of the scanner includes 2 years of free updates for all the programs. When you turn on the scanner, you need to select the time zone. You need to choose the language the scanner will use. Well, this is all basically standard, just like on a regular cell phone. I don't remember if I mentioned that or not. This scanner is for trucks, buses, trucks, and special equipment and so on. Accordingly, it runs on 24 volts. I don't remember if I mentioned that or not. So, as we can see, we have different brands here. Mercedes, Cummins, DAF. This scanner automatically reads the vehicle identification number when connected to the car. You can run diagnostics, red arrow codes, clear arrow codes, register equipment, and so on. So, as I mentioned before, I bought it on AliExpress. I'll leave the link in the description below this video. Well, now let's get to our video for today. Hello everyone, this is the Promotory channel. Today we're going to take apart this engine. This is a machine angefahren number D28 66 LF40. The engine arrived at my shop already like this. On this side everything appears in place, but from the other side it's already disassembled. There are no exhaust manifolds, turbine or heat exchanger. Well, basically on this side we can see that everything is completely empty. This engine was made in 2001, and as far as reliable information goes, it has never been opened up before. So we can actually see the overall condition of the engine. Look at all this rust. It comes off in layers like this, both on the block, on the heads, and on the compressor. I'll show you. The engine was never repaired all these years. And also, as far as we know, this car came from England, from the United Kingdom. Well, I don't know, but most likely it seems to be true. Yes, their climate there, those constant fogs, rains, plus most likely salt. Well, I don't know, I've never been to England. From what I can tell, based on my own views. So, we can also see on the compressor, the rust comes off in layers like this. Honestly, in all my experience, I don't think I've ever seen anything this rusty with this much corrosion. Here, for example, you can see the tube. I think it might break or snap off somewhere here in just a day. Well, alright, that's just a feature of this particular engine, that it's so rusty. I don't know, most likely the title of my video will be something related to this rust. Well, because that's kind of a feature of this engine. I haven't had engines like this before. So as we can see, there's no clutch and the flywheel is unscrewed. As far as I know, the clutch was already moved to another engine. So basically a car arrived here and it has two engines. One is the original and the other is a replacement. And from these two engines, we need to assemble one good engine. Some parts will still need to be bought new. That's it. But first, we start disassembling this engine. Then we'll have another one, which is currently installed in the car. Alright, let's start disassembling. As I already showed, that side is almost completely taken apart. On this side, we remove the manifold, pipes, compressor, and fuel pump. You can see it. This engine also has a protective cover. Some of my engines already had similar protection. I believe this section is a protective cover, with the oil pan located underneath. We remove the top part, disassemble the front pulleys, take off the cylinder heads, lay it on its side, and remove the pistons and camshafts. That's it. So that's the scope of work we have. Let's get started. So basically this bolt here has a 17mm head. You can see I tapped it, and put a 17mm socket on it, but the edges got stripped. Now I took a 16mm socket and you can see it went on after I hit it with a hammer. Now I'm going to try to unscrew this bolt with the 16mm socket. I don't know if the compressor has ever been removed from this engine or not. Well, here you go. This rust layer is several millimeters thick. I barely managed to unscrew these pipes, sprayed them, tapped them a bit. Anyway, I unscrewed both pipes from the block and the fittings. Now I need to unscrew this 10mm bolt and 6 8mm bolts with a 13mm socket. So we can see that the compressor was removed at some point because it's sitting on sealant. I don't think that's factory sealant, especially not in that amount. We can see the oil supply channel here. It's almost completely covered with sealant. There's just a small opening left. Well, even if this compressor was removed, it was a very, very, very long time ago. Wow, that's a rusty engine, right? Just look at it. Terrible it looks on the outside and how amazing it is on the inside, so to speak. Well, I mean how clean it is. No, there are no deposits. The block and water jacket both look clean. And also, I see the liner here. The liner is absolutely clean as well. Wow. I mean, I don't know. You can compare this to the engine I had, the Volvo D12 engine. I was also surprised by how clean the water jacket was there. And here we also see a metallic shine, as if the engine just came out of the factory 6 months ago. Alright, these are just my first impressions for now. Let's keep taking it apart. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. So I took off the cylinder heads, and in a few words I want to tell you what I saw here. To begin, the customer told me to replace only what was absolutely necessary. Anything that still seems usable, we leave it. That is, if something is in working condition, we don't touch it, right? So, based on that, we'll make all our further decisions. So the first thing I want to say is there is some wear on the sleeves. It's not as bad as it could have been. You can feel a ridge on each sleeve. So as you can see, I cleaned it. I removed the carbon buildup on top, cleaned the mating surface and scraped off some dust, sand, rust and so on. Also on each sleeve you can see these kinds of scratches. They're not very deep, but you can still feel these longitudinal scratches with your finger. They're larger in some places and smaller in others. So that's the condition of the sleeves, so they need to be replaced. Most likely the pistons will need replacing, since we can already see longitudinal scratches and marks. As I always say, this is just an assumption for now. We need to take it apart to make everything clear. So, what do I want to show? What is the main problem with this engine, with this block? So, as I already showed, it's all rusty like this. Rust comes off in layers like this. I already showed it on another camera, but now I'll film it so the condition of the block is clearer. So let's take a look at the 6-cylinder, the 6-sleeve. Here, for example, on this side, we have the boundary between the cylinder heads, and up to the sleeve, there's still about 2 1/8 inch of the block body here. But if we look from the opposite side, the block has been eaten away right up to the level of the sleeve. So here we can see the sleeve. I don't know how clear that is. So this is the spot where we didn't have a gasket, where we didn't have the head, and it's been completely eaten away. The sleeve here is just hanging in the air now. So the problem is we can't do anything with this block anymore. We can replace the sleeve, we can measure the sleeve's protrusion, we can even make it a bit higher, but still the gasket will only be sitting on the sleeve itself, so the sealing will be due to this ring. But here the gasket will just be hanging in the air. And when I was disassembling it, I noticed that this head has these streaks, both oil and soot. Well, I don't know. I didn't mention it on camera. I'll check the heads now. Maybe, if the oil hasn't covered it up, I'll see it and show it. It turns out there was already an issue here. Gases were leaking and the gasket was already blowing through. I don't know what we'll do about this. One option is to leave everything as is, since the rest of the block is in decent condition. These bridges between the sleeves are in decent condition. The seats for the antifreeze seals, the oil seals, basically everything here is in good shape. You could even say a solid B+. But this spot here ruins the whole picture, so I don't know. Of course, we'll be making some decisions later on and taking a closer look. Either we'll replace the block or we'll leave everything as it is, just replace the sleeves and put it all back together. We'll see how long it lasts, let's put it that way. So that's the problem we have with this block. But as I already said, we have 2 engines and we need to assemble one out of the 2. At the moment just one, and as for the second one, I don't know yet, decisions will be made later. That's why we're not focusing on this block for now. We're taking it apart further, checking the overall condition of the crankshaft, camshaft, and so on. Well, if we find any more defects in the block, then most likely the block will definitely go to scrap metal. Well, because as I already showed, there's nothing we can do about this anymore. So what's next? What do I do? Next, I'll lay the engine on its side. Now I'll remove this tube. This is the drain tube from the turbo. Oil drains into the oil pan. I'll remove this tube. Take off this mount. And maybe also remove this loop. I'll lay the engine on its side and then I'll start taking it apart. The oil pan, the plate, the front cover and the rear cover. Actually not the oil pan first. First we have the shield here, then the shield, then the oil pan, then the intermediate plate, and there's the oil pump. I take out the pistons with the connecting rods and then we check the condition of the crankshaft and the camshaft. And basically that's it. How beautiful. To be continued. So we see the crankshafts, the bearings are in excellent condition, standard size, year of manufacture. Is it 0 or something? Well, it seems like the engine should be from 2001, but sometimes it happens that if the engine is officially from early 2001, the bearings could be, say, from the last week or the last weeks of 2000. Well, the bearings are standard. I don't know. Basically, they're in pretty good condition. If you really wanted to, you could even put these bearings back in. So, well, that means the pistons are also basically in pretty good condition. Of course, there's a little bit of wear, but basically with this kind of mileage, that's nothing. So we can see that there are, of course, some small scratches here. Now we just need to figure out how deep these scratches are. Well, I think that's probably not a problem either. So most likely we'll keep the old pistons and just replace the sleeves. You definitely need to check the piston pin clearance because you can see the play even on camera, right? The play is very large. You definitely need to replace the connecting rod bushing. The pistons will probably stay the old ones. The liners need to be replaced and the rings and pistons need to be replaced too. Well, I'm just saying that. Why? The customer himself asked for minimal repairs. So whatever we can keep, we keep. Well, accordingly, the pistons seem to be in good condition for now, so we'll probably keep the old pistons. The main bearings are in worse condition. You can already see here that the entire anti-friction layer has been removed, and you can also see the layer that's left. It has what looks like scoring marks, as if there was a bit of oil starvation. In general, there's wear. The bearing is from year 02, and it's also standard. We see the main bearings that are installed in the block, and there's already this kind of red indicator on it. Although it's very strange why it's in the block. Usually it wears out more in the cap, while the block is generally in better condition. Well, here we see it's a bit the opposite. Maybe there's some kind of defect in the block itself. Although we can see that the bearings in the block itself are just sitting perfect. I can't even get them out. I mean, I can't even move them by hand. The engine is disassembled. Let's summarize. Well, to start with, I'll say there's a golden rule. Don't judge by appearances. And we see that in our case, that's 100% true. On the outside, the engine looks just terrible. All this rust, all this paint, all these flakes, and so on. But inside the engine, I can say it's one of the best I've ever had to repair. I have a video about repairing a Maschinen and Fabrik Augsburg Nürnberg D2086 engine that was installed on a KMAZ. That engine was bought for 450,000, I think. Yeah, on the outside, it looked great, painted in black matte. But when we took it apart, it turned out we couldn't use anything from it. We basically discarded the engine block, crankshaft, camshaft and more. So basically, the customer paid 450,000 for that engine and only got the oil pan and cylinder heads, so to speak. Here we see the opposite situation. So the engine looks absolutely unimpressive on the outside, but in fact, internally, it's just in perfect condition. So what's the biggest problem with this engine? Well, again, it's this corrosion, this rust, like I pointed out at the very beginning, and basically it turns out I was right. So I showed you, yes, what kind of pit we have here on the 6th cylinder. Here it is. Well, I will recommend to the customer to replace the block. I don't know, we'll look for a block, or maybe we'll take the block from the engine that will be removed from the car. Well, I don't know, there's no decision yet. But I wouldn't risk assembling on this block because there's a high chance that the gasket will blow in this spot, and let's say the engine after the repair, the person will invest 300, 400, 500,000 rubles into it, and he'll constantly have gases leaking from under the 6th cylinder head. It just seems illogical to me, although the block itself is actually in perfect condition. Looking at the inside at the water jacket, we can see how clean it is and the condition of the sleeves. So, it's one of the cleanest blocks I've ever seen when it comes to the water jacket. Probably my recent Volvo and this engine are the cleanest. For now, there's no decision on the block. As for the rest, crankshaft is in perfect condition. So, we're keeping the old one. The camshaft is also in perfect condition. We're not doing anything with it either. We're keeping the old pistons, but the sleeves, piston rings and sleeve seals are new. The piston pin seal needs replacement. Next are the main and connecting rod bearings. We'll have new cylinder heads. We'll be disassembling them, at the very least replacing the valve stem seals, possibly replacing the valves and guides, and they'll definitely go to the surface grinder. Of course, we'll also be disassembling and inspecting the compressor.